to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of News Web Radio Company or its management.
All right, Life, Love, and the Grind. Thanks for tuning in. You got Sean Allen here, and I'm rolling.
And Raza Siddiqui remotely.
I was going to say I'm rolling solo today. I'm all by myself in the studio. I think this is a first, Raza, where I've just got a lot of space now.
Well, you know what? I wish I had space because I got my wife and my kids just all staring me down, asking me to keep it down. But I'm here making sure that I'm on the air with you because we got a great show today, don't we, Sean?
We got a great show. We got two incredible guests. We got kind of a wide range. You know, we're going to focus on the mind and the body. We're going to focus on this transformation, this empowerment coach with Sheena Patel. And then later we're going to hear from Jessica Paulicki, who's a nurse with Well-Rooted Pediatrics. So we're going to kind of cover a lot of this stuff going on in COVID-19 and this lockdown world that we're all a part of now. That's kind of it's affected everybody. It's a global issue, and we're all kind of stuck in it together.
Well, Sean, if I could, I'd like to tell you what I'm calling this episode, and that is self-reflection, stronger outcome. Because I think this is one of those opportunities where we can kind of reflect on how we can do better and come out of this, with a little bit more of an advantage and stronger thought processes.
Absolutely. So it's going to be very good. It's going to be a good show. I encourage everyone to ask questions on Facebook or call in at 773-763-9278. We will be having Sheena Patel up first to kind of talk about this transformation and kind of mental empowerment that I think we all need right now more than ever. I know I need it. It's been a long road. It's been 7 weeks of kind of a lot of downtime.
As a bachelor, I imagine this can't be a very easy process for you.
It's not a very fun time. As a bachelor, it's not very fun. As a single man living alone, it's been a lot of self-reflection. So I think it's good to have Sheena here to help guide people in relationships with people single on how to come out of this mentally stronger. So what do you think, Raza? You ready to get started? Sheena, you on?
I am on.
Well, thank you, Sheena, for joining us. This is, I think, a first as well that we have someone from a different country joining us and giving us their input from Canada.
Yes, from Toronto.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Sheena, how are things today?
I'm sorry?
I said, how are things today?
It's okay. I mean, we're all kind of in this position together. So I'm not going to say it's much different than I think what you guys are experiencing.
Absolutely. So Sheena, you're a transformation and empowerment coach. Why don't you give us a quick rundown of what that kind of entails?
Sure. So it's really helping people get over their own. Unfortunately, we have everything within us, but it's kind of locked in there. And we debilitate ourselves and hinder ourselves from living our best life and moving forward with confidence and happiness and kind of preparing the world for the state that we may not want to be in or find out ourselves in. So I help people get over their own hurdles and their own internal issues so they can thrive and live a happy life.
Yeah, absolutely. So navigating through this, stress management, anxiety, I mean, how do we navigate through this in this COVID-19? Again, this unprecedented, sickness has been going around, it's going global. I mean, how do we get through this and come out mentally stronger?
Are you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think learning to master the mind is the most important thing right now, which is easier said than done. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of tension and worry in the environment, in people, in the uncertainty. and everybody is feeling it. So it's really a matter of taking some time, and of course we all kind of have it right now, and getting our mind right, centering ourselves, and doing the internal work. And I think a lot of people want to do this, but just don't know how, or we say we don't have the time to do so. So instead of looking at it as, like a time to be freaking out and to be worried and stressed out, if we can just flip the thought in our minds of, you know what, let me just change my perspective on things, realign ourselves, and have a different outlook.
So for a society that's pretty much caught up in the rat race constantly and doesn't get to spend a lot of time with family because they're so busy working, is this like a culture shock, do you think, to a lot of people to have this much time on your hands now and to have this much downtime?
Definitely. A lot of people don't know what to do with themselves because they're not used to sitting at home by themselves or spending so much time with family. But instead of looking at it from a place of, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It's just change the tone of it. Oh, what am I going to do? What have been the things that I've always wanted to do that I haven't had the time to? Or, just connecting with family members on that deeper level, sitting by yourself, reflecting. Again, just really changing our outlook to something more positive and embracing the change, embracing the uncertainty. Nothing is permanent in this world. We all came from one place and we're going to end up there again too. So now whatever we do in between is what counts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it sounds crazy to think that this is such a challenging time to have downtime, but you know what? You have families that have, my sister has 6 kids. So you have families, at home with their, all their kids. It's constant, chaos. And then you have on the flip side, like I say, myself, I'm single and now I'm, a pretty big extrovert that now has to be kind of forced inside all the time. I mean, it is mentally taxing on yourself on both sides on the coin. And then you have these financial issues where people are laid off. They're not getting, the unemployment so backed up. They're not able to have a good financial stability. I mean, there is a lot of fear out there. So, I mean, what's the best way to just, like you say, center yourself and kind of regroup and get back to a positive, healthy mindset? It is mentally taxing on yourself.
So there's not just one thing. There's so many things one can do to center themselves or rebalance themselves, and it's all in the mind. So we're all kind of going through the same thing. Some people, yes, I mean, they've lost their jobs or they're at home with huge families, and that chaos, that loudness can be stressful. For me, I'm an introvert, so I don't mind this so much. Mm-hmm. I like that I can stay at home and focus on the things that I've been putting off, spending more time with family. I'm fortunate enough to, I can still work, but keeping the mind busy, I think, is very important. So as I say, an empty mind is the devil's playground. So what can you do? Find your passion if you haven't figured that out yet. I think a lot of people don't know what they enjoy doing because they're just not used to having this alone time. Hobbies, things like cooking. I know the weather is getting nicer. It's beautiful here today. I'm not sure how it is down there.
It's beautiful today. It's a great day today.
Listening to different kinds of music, art, creating, reading, watching movies, finding things to do with the family. Because for some, you can look at it as we're stuck with them, or for some, you can say, I'm going to embrace this time because I'm never going to get this kind of time again.
Well, and that's very true, and you have to come out of this. You have to be positive. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all stuck in it. We don't have a choice. I mean, in Illinois, we have a lockdown until the end of May, June 1st. Love it or hate it, we're all in it. So I think it's important to try to take the best that we can with this, because otherwise you're going to lose your mind and you're going to lose yourself. So
exactly.
you have to be.
When we're saying we're hating this, or I can't stand this time. I can't wait to get out. People are itching to be getting back to their normal life. Now we don't know what the norm is going to be after all of this, but I'm just going to keep bringing it back to your mindset, and that is the most important thing. Whether you're in a house with a bunch of people, whether you're single, it's just kind of making the best of these times and moving forward with that, and take it as a challenge for yourself too. You know, like, okay, how can I find my peace through this time? So even if people need to connect with others to feel loved and feel appreciated and feel like they're not going crazy. So having, Skype calls or Zoom calls, or so many different apps out there where we can still stay connected. So even though, they say social distancing, I like to say physical distancing. So you may not be able to physically be around people, but you can still stay connected.
Well, and we're lucky to be in such a connected, time right now with Facebook and all these, dating apps and, social media apps. I mean, really, we've been more connected now than we've ever been in the history of our planet. If you think about it, I mean, we're also still in touch. So, I mean, I think we still are lucky that you can call your family and your friends and still have that kind of somewhat connection, Mm-hmm. So what are some of your best recommendations, maybe on books, or maybe a good show that you would recommend, or even like a good interview on YouTube, something that's kind of positive that someone can turn on and walk away from it feeling a little bit better, as opposed to just constant Netflix or constant just, news. I mean, I think everybody needs to take a break from whatever news station you want to watch, whether it's NBC, 100%. CNN, or Fox or whatever. Like, I think everybody needs to push pause.
Yeah, I was listening to this stuff for maybe the first 2-3 weeks.
Is she?
Yeah.
Is Raza still on? Is there any way you can bring her back?
Maybe she connects. I don't know.
All right. Well, we've lost Raza and we've lost Sheena, and I'm rolling solo at the studio. So we have Jessica. Is Jessica?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, Jessica. We may have to jump to you a little earlier due to the fact that I think I've lost everybody. This is even though we're in a great technical time of 2020, we still have nothing but issues, But it is tough because Sheena's calling from obviously Canada, and Raza's at home. So why don't we jump in with you a little bit? All right. So Jessica Paulicki, I hope I'm pronouncing that last name right too. I didn't want to butcher it.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So Well-Rooted Pediatrics. Let's kind of dive in here with this COVID-19. This is the biggest thing that's on everyone's mind. Obviously, it's controlling and dictating everyone's life, whether we like it or not. We did just hear from Sheena Patel about some of this, mind kind of transformation, how to stay positive. What I was kind of flipped to the physical aspects. How do we kind of keep our bodies to the best of our abilities safer and healthy? And how do we navigate through this COVID-19 pandemic and hysteria almost?
Yeah, I think this whole thing's so controversial. And when it all started, I had a lot of patients just asking my thoughts, which is a lot of what our parents do, mainly since we see, their children. And at the time, it was more just like, okay, this is nothing more than we've dealt with before. Let's maintain our confidence. Let's support our immune system. And then I think what got to people was, you already kind of hit earlier, it was just like the media, and everybody's not doing their normal daily routines. So it tended to pull everybody out of their confidence side. And it led them to a point where they didn't know how to take care of themselves or what to do is best. So a big focus in my practice is maintaining a healthy immune system and giving our bodies the tool it needs to do that. So, we focus a lot just on healthy supplements and chiropractic care, vitamin C, vitamin D. Now we were saying this weekend, like getting in the sun as much as possible. And when we first started seeing, sick people, we were still kind of getting to the end of the respiratory cold season, flu season. And parents were calling and saying, okay, well, I meet the symptoms of COVID, or my child meets the symptoms. So what is that? Fever and cough. And the CDC still isn't recommending everybody just getting tested initially. They want you to kind of ride it out if you have mild symptoms, do what you know to do best, and then seek emergency care if needed. So we were having to reiterate that to everybody and say, okay, 2 weeks ago, if we had a cough or fever, what would we have done? And we had to kind of just maintain that confidence in parents and give them that back. And I think a lot of people finally have built themselves up from that because it took a lot. And if the more you read, the more you watch, and the more you hear from people on social media, it really just can bring you down, and it just settles into more of like a depression and then hysteria and an anxiety-ridden, fest. And it's just not what I want to promote is stress and increase in cortisol levels in my patients or my parents.
Well, absolutely. Hold on, Sheena, are you still on?
I am. Are you able to hear me?
Okay, I'm sorry, Jessica. Let me finish up with Sheena real quick. She just came back on. Let me get her for a couple minutes, and we'll be right back with you. So I'm sorry, Sheena. So you're still on. I can hear you.
Perfect.
So we got a couple more minutes till we go to commercial break. So why don't you? So we were talking about what are your best recommendations for a book or an interview or a show, something positive to come out of this the news.
One of my favorite books is The Alchemist. I was just talking to somebody about that today.
Mm-hmm.
When I first read that book about 8 years ago, it completely changed the way I looked at the world. So I would recommend that one. The Magic by Rhonda Byrne is another good one. It's basically a bunch of gratitude exercises. And every time I found I picked that book up, I was able to change my mind, the energy I was emitting because I was focusing on gratitude and the things that I was grateful for in the world. In terms of shows, comedies are great. It makes things light. It changes the mood up within the household, within your own mind. What else? I love listening to Abraham Hicks. And you can find her things on YouTube. I think on Spotify too.
I mean, it's so important to fill our heads up now. Like I say, when it's so easy to get into a depression in these times, financially, mentally, emotionally, these are draining times. People aren't seeing their families. I mean, it is so important now more than ever to pump a lot of positivity into your life because we're going to come back out of this, and we have to come out of this stronger to the best of our abilities,
So it's what we do now. The seeds we plant now is what's gonna flourish later on down the road.
Absolutely.
So having that positive outlook, like I said, reading, meditating is great. I do this religiously. That's one thing I will say. Being out in nature, going for walks, exercising. When you move your body, you have everything. You have. Sorry, there's a little bit of an echo, so it's throwing me off.
Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah.
We can hear you fine over here, at least on my end. But
okay.
But absolutely, I think there's no excuse now. Everyone has a lot of downtime. Get out there. It's beautiful out here in Chicago. Get out there, walk. Find some sort of peace. Meditation. I think just coming out of this mentally strong is going to make you that much better moving forward because you know what? We really don't know how long it's going to last, and we want to make sure we don't fall apart in it. So
yes, definitely.
All right, well, stay tuned. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. We just heard from Sheena Patel, Transformation and Empowerment Coach. Stay tuned. We're going to bring her back, and then coming up next after the break, we're going to tune back into Jessica Paulicki with Well-Rooted Pediatrics. Stay tuned.
This is Louis Geyer from GWC Engineering Lawyers. Now that cannabis is legal in Illinois, an understanding of the law and the risks associated with ingesting cannabis is critically important. Under the Cannabis Act, you can legally ingest marijuana only in a very limited number of places. Not in public, not on government or school premises, and not even in your own condo or apartment if your landlord has a no smoking policy. A positive test is potentially lethal to your rights in 3 key areas: employment, work injuries, and driving. So if your employer has a zero tolerance drug and alcohol policy, you can be terminated if you fail a drug test, even though your cannabis consumption was legal. If you're hurt on the job and test positive for cannabis, the legal presumption is that your accident was caused in part because of the cannabis, and your workers' compensation rights can be totally denied. DUI laws have not changed. Impaired means impaired. And a DUI due to cannabis or alcohol can ruin your career. If you want to indulge in legal THC before you ingest, read up on your rights at gwclaw.com.
Megan Financial is an independent retirement and financial services firm dedicated to the working men and women of organized labor. Megan provides straightforward, custom-fit financial advice and specializes in defined benefit and defined contribution pension plans, as well as participant and retiree health and welfare benefits. Megan Financial has the knowledge and experience to navigate the union member through all phases of life. Call 708-444-1090.
Securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisors LLC, member FINRA, SIPC, a broker-dealer and registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Office location at 5321 South 94th Avenue, Orland Park, Illinois, 60462.
All right, if you're just tuning in, you got Sean in the studio, you got Raza from remote
That's right,
location.
Sean. I'm right back here with you. So
Thanks
out
for-
remotely and back making technology work for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just heard from Sheena Patel, Transformation and Empowerment Coach. She's representing Canada up there and giving us a little bit of a mental, kind of a break from all this and finding a good positive outlook on everything. But we're going to tune back in with Jessica with Well-Rooted Pediatrics. We heard from her a little bit before the break. So Jessica, sorry to cut you off. Why don't we bring you back up to speed and pick up where you left off?
Yeah, that's all right. Technical difficulties, all good.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, just like what I was saying before, is that I think that we all just have to remember what we knew before, aside of what social media is trying to fear us of, or the news or whatnot, and just know that to do what we do best, and that's to take care of our families and take care of our health and put our immune systems first. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that, in the midst of all of this.
Well, it's and how do we hang out with our families, right? So, I mean, one thing,
Yeah.
like you were saying, how do we limit this hysteria to the children from the parents that are kind of getting their kids really terrified and horrified? Like, how do we keep this panic and stress down from the parents that are kind of freaking out themselves and their kids?
Yeah, so I'm so glad you brought that up, because I've seen that a lot in the office over the last few weeks, where these children are more petrified because of their parents. And I did a video a few weeks ago on our Facebook page about this. Like, just please, what everybody can do is just, not to fear the children. Like, don't scare the kids. It's hard enough as adults to have as much of this, but our job is to protect them mentally and physically. And as of right now, their entire worlds have been turned upside down, right? They can't see, like you said, their friends on the school bus, their teachers. They can't finish out school, and who knows if they'll be able to start it next year. So for them, as much as we're struggling as adults, it's completely 100%, even more for them. And as of right now, like a lot of kids I'm seeing, is just the anxiety is so high. And it's also going to bring their immune system down with those increased cortisol levels. But we just have to, if we're going to talk to our spouse about it, or our family, or have the news on, I've just been asking parents, like, not to do it in front of them, but do like what Sheena was saying, like, go outside, watch a fun movie if it's raining, or make it positive for them. And I have seen a lot of that. Right? People are making like rainbows and hearts, and they're cutting them out and putting them on the front of their windows, or stained glass painting their windows, like trying to interact with the children more, which I find is a great thing. But in the end, like, they're still just as fearful because they see us scared. And so we have to really just bring it down a notch for the sake of them too.
Well, especially these young kids, like I say, I have 5 nephews and a niece. I mean, they're young. I mean, like, if they're 2 and 3 years old, they don't understand this. So,
Right.
so it's such a more important role as parents to make sure to keep it together. I mean, they're going to feed off of your strength. If you're losing it and telling your kids, oh my God, we're all going to get sick and die. I mean, that's pretty horrifying as a child that really doesn't understand what's going on.
Exactly. And we've seen so much of it. And even just with my 2, I have a 4 and a 6-year-old, and she doesn't understand. She's like, well, if we go buy a mask, can't our friends come over and play? I'm like, I wish it was that easy, because they just don't get it. And it's hard for us to even understand a lot of it, right? So now we try to explain it to them, and they truly just don't understand. So it's a really tough battle to fight right now, especially with children.
Well, and the problem is too, no one's an expert. So no matter
Right.
who you're tuning into, no one's an expert on this. And there is a lot to fear. I mean, I I'm trying to find a balance within the middle of,
Mhm.
I can't say I completely agree with people on the left unless they have, extreme conditions that they really cannot get sick. But, to just hide in bubble wrap under your bed for the next 3 months, I don't agree with. I also don't agree with people just being completely reckless and careless. There has to be some sort of middle ground where we can find some sort of way to continue civilization in a way. We're not going to just completely stop seeing and being around people. We're such a social, the human race has to interact with each other. So how do we find that balance?
Well, and like you said, every news source, every media source they all have separate opinions, right? So that's where it's becoming very hard, and it's because they don't know. So any other season, let's just, go back to last year with flu season, people that were immune compromised or had concerns or health conditions, like they avoid, a lot of the big things during those peak times. So now they're saying they're trying to study this particular virus. They're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And I do think it's going to take time for them to figure that out. And I do think a couple of years down the road, they're going to say, okay, if we have these symptoms, we can take this, we can do that. But they're still trying to figure out the treatment options and what's working, if it's, this antibiotic or this medication. And now they're using anti-malaria drugs. So there's so many different things that are consistently changing. And they're saying the warmer weather is going to be better. So we can only hope that everything will decline naturally. But that's what I agree with you. If people are living in so much fear now and afraid to come out, like as soon as it starts to get cooler again, fall, winter next year, the virus is going to come back, right? Because it's never going to fully go away. But it's how do we face it and how do we control it? And that's what I think everybody's trying to figure out medically, to figure out what they can do to treat people and help them so that it is not as so much of a detrimental effect on humans.
Well, and let's be honest, this isn't going away, like you said. So,
right.
JB Pritzker has us on a lockdown till, May 30th. June 1st, we come out of this. Okay, everything's good. It's still there. There
Correct.
Still has to be some sort of risk there. So my thing is I want people to be educated to understand that when they lift this lockdown, there still has to be an understanding that this is not going to go away. So we do have to find a way of maneuvering through this some sort of healthy way. I mean, I don't want to go without seeing my family for 6 months.
Right.
So
I agree. And I think everybody's just so scared because so many people are being faced with the media and those resources. And everybody's truly, the statistics that they show, they're not showing positive statistics. They're not telling you the hundreds of thousands or over 1 million people that have been, cured or have walked away from this virus naturally because your body can fight it off. They're telling you all the deaths and the amount of new cases every day. So instead of us focusing on the positive side of it to uplift everybody, they're focusing on the negative, which then ensues causing more anxiety and more depression in the human race as everybody's just sitting home. And now they're even more fearful to face the everyday reality.
Well, and like you said, it's, everyone's like, our immune system just can't handle it. Well, if you have, hundreds of thousands of people beating this, I would disagree. And I would say that our immune system is capable of beating this because that's human beings. That's human nature.
Absolutely.
We adapt. We adapt quickly. We've survived a lot. And this is just another case of we can survive it. There's an extremely high survival rate. But like you say, I think they want to keep kind of the fear going. And there has to be some sort of fear, right? There has to be some sort of, okay, we have to be realistic about this and understand that it's nothing to take lightly. This is a dangerous situation, but like, where are we moving forward in this? We can't be unrealistic and say, okay, everything's shut down for 2020, 2021. We still have to get back to life. I'm an essential worker. My life has not skipped a beat. I've gotten up every day. I've gone to work. I've been on the street. I've gone shopping. I've gone to Mariano's. There's certain things where it's like we're still living, So, what are the best precautions, I guess, and how do we to kind of take within enjoying our loved ones, and within a sense of like, how do you hang out with your children or your nieces, your nephews, and not touch them or not hug them? There has to be some sort of middle ground here.
Well, and that's just it. And that's where I go all the way back to, that's what the part that bothers me the most is that in the beginning with all this when all this happened, there was so much hysteria, like I said, in my office, and I did a whole video, and I listed all the different viruses and illnesses that are transmitted, via droplet, coughing, sneezing within those particle reaches of those 6 feet, et cetera. And the options just kept going, and I had to cut off the list, right? So this is not the only thing that's done that way, but has anybody feared going around their families at Christmas time, Thanksgiving, or any other holiday? And the answer is no. So how do we change the mindset of that, which I think is the hardest part? And it's just going to be for people to have their conversations. And I mean, and I know families that, have not necessarily separated or are still, taking those risks of seeing each other because they're all on the same page of, if this is going to, have a detrimental effect on me now, it's going to have a detrimental effect on me next year or the following year, whatever the case may be. And so people are not wanting to stop their lives. And then others are just a little hesitant. And so I think it's just going to come down to being that individual of what your beliefs are. And we can still practice safely, right? So if it's, washing your hands and hand sanitizing and staying your distance as much as you can. Right now, I think it's nice that everybody can be outside a little bit more than versus being, stuck, I guess, like in your homes or whatever the case may be, and being more closer proximity with people. But it's a challenge. And, how's everybody going to go back to just normal workforce and being in cubicles or next to people or on the airplanes? I mean, there's so much that.
Or sports. I mean,
Right,
sports is a huge thing for our kids,
Or the school classrooms.
Yeah.
Like, what is the plan going to be? And I think, like I said, any other year, I mean, how, one kid gets the stomach bug, the next thing you know, 10 people are out. That's just kind of what it is, right? But I understand the virus is completely different, but how is that whole mindset going to change? That's what I'm just not sure of. I'm not sure what they're going to do. And I don't feel like we have much control over it at this point. Like, we're just going to kind of be told what's going to happen going forward. And it's sad.
Well, and let's be honest, right? Me and my family talk about this. We're from Illinois. Weather is about 9 months a year bad. We deal with rain, cold, snow. I mean, we live for our brief summer, which is probably June, July, August. Sometimes it's nice in, September. It's been nice in April and May. We've been lucky. But I mean, how do we stop this social distancing when you have all these people cooped up all winter long, spring, and now the nice weather hits? I mean, how are you going to control all these people that are like, you know what, I'm going to go out and take walks? And I mean, I've been everywhere. I've been in downtown Elmhurst. There's people everywhere. People are out and about.
Well, they're saying 98% of people are asymptomatic. So how are we going to build the herd immunity against it when everybody's isolated and not around anybody? So that's what's hard for me is, I mean, if you've been following Sweden at all, like, they didn't close down at all. And their death rate and their infection rate is so much lower. And I understand they're a completely different country. They do things a lot different than the United States. But that just goes to show that necessarily shutting down is not the answer. And other states in the country, even that we're living in, that were shut down or now are open, they have not seen any changes in their numbers. That's the stuff that we have to look at. That's the stuff that I think bothers me, is to how much longer is this going to go? I know Oregon, I believe, just announced there till July 6th. So, I mean, is it going to end at June 1st? And that's what I think everybody's so afraid of.
Well, 100%. And if a state like Oregon is, going to July, here we are in Illinois, with how many people do we have? 12.6 million. I mean, how long is that going to go? I mean, it's definitely a real thing. It's definitely something but it's something we need to talk about. We need to talk about as a community. We can't just push pause on life. Life has to somehow find a way to getting back to normal.
Well, absolutely. And like I said, the media will tell you one thing and they're focused on the negative, and that just is going to fear everybody, right? But we've been through this. We've been through Ebola. We've been through H1N1. We've been through bird flu, all the different things in the past. I mean, Zika was a thing of the past that suddenly just kind of disappeared too. And looking at, we're up in McHenry County, and just looking at the stats that we have here, with over 300,000 people in the county, we've had 666 cases with 37 deaths. So that comes to 1.8% of our county. So when you look at that, it's like, okay, well, but yet we're still living in this whole fear-ridden, fear-mongering area. And everybody just needs to kind of change their mindset in that and look at the real numbers.
Absolutely. Well, we want to take a caller. We got a caller coming in. I want to take this. And...
Wait a second. He's still screening it.
Oh, okay. All right. Never mind. He's still trying to screen it. So, yeah. So, I mean, there's so many myths behind there. Are there any myths that you would like to totally dispel, or something that you're kind of like help people out that are here? Again, a lot of it's just the news and social media. It is what it is. We're all connected. We're all on our phones 24/7. So there's always going to be mass hysteria.
The biggest thing I'm telling people is look at the numbers yourself. So exactly what I just said. Over 300,000 in our county, 600 positive, 37 deaths, less than 2% contracted that are positive, which means it's 0.0 something percent, with an actual death. And look at like the real things for yourself and kind of see where that's coming from, right? And I think that everybody thinks they're going to be better with masks. And I, working in healthcare for the last 15 plus years, they've thrown the cloth mask idea out the window so many times. And there's a huge study that's floating around back from 2015 that states that it increases your infectious disease rate in respiratory region up to 97% more because you're containing all that moisture. So it's just one of those catch-22s. If people think it's going to help, sure, but look at it yourself. Like find that evidence yourself and research it yourself and know what you're doing versus just kind of following suit of everybody, what they're telling you.
Well, and like, we talked with Sheena, turn the news off. For the love of God, please turn the news off for a minute. Whatever side you land on, it doesn't matter. Turn the news off. And like you say, get educated, learn from, doctors. And again, no one's an expert on this. No one has all the answers, but, putting yourself out there and really educating yourself a little bit differently than just tuning in and listening to politicians. I mean, let's really, hear from the people that matter. And then, like you say, take it for yourself and, see how you feel about things.
Right. I agree.
I mean, again, we don't know how long this is going to go. Let's be honest. It could be June 1st and they say, you know what, let's just shut down the summer. Let's go to August. I mean, I know, I get it. So what's your feedback from all of your patients and stuff? I mean, is it been more relaxed over the last couple of weeks? Are people getting more relaxed, or is it more hysteria?
No, absolutely. Way more relaxed. In the beginning, definitely a lot of just fear. A lot of people just canceling appointments, afraid to come in. And now it's just, we're back to, 100%, if not more, in terms of how many patients were on our schedule, just because people are realizing that this just was completely now taken out of control. And everybody's referring back to just the Constitution and, being back on lockdown only should have been 30 days. And now they're just playing with rights of our, citizenship, I guess you can say. So everybody's just kind of to the point where they're frustrated and why these big retailers can be open, but yet their small businesses can't, and they're losing their business and things like that. They're just done with it.
And it's hard to argue it. It's hard to argue the case that Amazon and the richest corporations on earth, they can continue business as usual, but the hardworking mom and pop stores and everything, they have to shut down. I mean, it's definitely, it's a realistic argument. I mean, as an essential worker, as a man of the people and the working people, I want to see our economy thrive, and I want to see our small businesses especially thrive in our communities,
Absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely. Well, all right. So we're hearing from Jessica Paulicki, Well Rooted Pediatrics. We'll be right back after this commercial break, and then we'll be joined with Sheena Patel and Jessica and myself, Sean, with Life Loving the Grind. Hopefully, Raza, if he can get back on. We've had some technical difficulties, but we'll be right back after this.
Life, Love, and the Grind is proudly sponsored by Rich Lewandowski and our friends at Breaker Press, Chicagoland's top choice for union printing. We're a third-generation family-owned business that has been helping unions and political campaigns win since 1976. We've been involved in hundreds of winning elections, and we get our printed materials to you on time and on budget every time. Whether you're running for the courthouse or the White House, we will take you from concept to design and from print to mail or your supporters' front yards. Breaker Press can help you reach the voters you need. Call Rich at 773-852-5733 or email rich@breakerpress.com for all of your political printing needs Visit us at breakerpress.com.
All right, if you're just tuning in, you're hearing Mike Love on the Grind with Sean. Roz is having a little technical difficulties. I'm rolling solo here at the studio, and he's coming from remote, so we'll see if he can get back. So now we're joined with Sheena Patel, Transformation Empowerment Coach, and Jessica Pawlicki, Welcome to Pediatrics. So, ladies, we've heard the mind and the body at this point. So, where do you see us in 6 months from this? Why don't we start with you, Sheena? Do you see us coming out of this stronger, healthier, more self-aware, or are we going to go back to God only knows, chaos?
That's a great question. Like I said earlier, I think it all depends on what seeds we plant right now. So if we're going to be spending the next few weeks or few months in fear, that's what we're growing in our lives. What we sometimes tend to do is when we are in a state of fear, we like to blame other people. I know it's definitely been happening here, dealing with racism towards Asians and whatnot. Like, we really don't know where it came from, right? People are speculating and things are changing every single day. So again, I bring it back to the mind and just planting those really positive seeds, doing things that make us happy. Whatever we can do right now, and this will be my takeaway, is be happy. So just find the things that you enjoy doing to make the best of this situation.
Yeah.
And
I think that's
come 6
absolutely
months,
great advice.
Oh,
yeah, come 6 months. Welcome back. Come 6 months from now, yeah, I mean, the city will be more united and stronger together. I can foresee a little bit of fear and maybe some tension in terms of, oh, can I go close? Can I go be in this big group of people or be in this crowd or go to the mall and not have my mask on and my gloves and be okay? Well, we're all just kind of figuring it out together as we go.
well, like you say, we're definitely all in this together, whether we like it or not. We're all in this. So Jessica, how does this affect, babies and children, this sickness? Have you seen?
So in the beginning, when this all started, they said that it wasn't going to affect, pregnant women, babies, children. And I think that they realized, obviously, that it can. And from what they're seeing with kids, is it's presenting very different with children. A lot of the children are not developing a lot of the respiratory symptoms as much as the adults, and or obviously the more
I think you nailed it. Like letting go of these things that they become these crutches, right? Like we turn towards alcohol. I myself haven't drank in about 6 years just because I found it wasn't really doing anything for me, you know. So eating clean, making it most of a challenge. What can I do to feed really good nutrients enriched foods into my body and into my family's body? Because at the end of the day, this has been a bill that I need. We're waiting for a vaccine, but in the meantime, we can do these things to help ourselves out. So diet is really good. Mind, like I said, meditation, what the kinds of information we're feeding into our mind, not listening to the news, listening to more positive and uplifting things. I think journaling is a great way where we could challenge ourselves to, you know, journal every day or every other day to get our thoughts out onto paper rather than keeping it in our head. Because what kind of happens over time is if we're not talking about it, for those who are living by themselves, if we're just stewing in our own thoughts, that could drive us crazy.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Well, we do have
absolutely.
I do want to take a chance to get a caller. We have Dave on the line. Hold on. Hey, Dave, you there? You got Sean, Raza, Sheena, and Jessica.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Great.
So what's your question? Man?
My question is, are we suggesting that the herd immunity option is the way to go? I mean, we're up upwards to 70,000 dead now. And so if we did the herd option, where would we be? Like 150,000?
Jessica,
I think the problem is that it's not going to go away. The virus is going to still attack the same way if it's not this year, next year.
That wasn't my question. If we just did nothing and we're at like 150,000 people dead in like a month and a half, that's okay. I mean, I don't know where's the logic in that?
Yeah, I'm not sure anybody said it was okay to not do anything, or okay to just let everybody kind of go.
I thought you were suggesting that herd immunity was what we could do. We could just, herd immunity. Sweden did something which was nothing, and they didn't have very many people die. But of course, Sweden's a completely different place than where we live. So, I mean, why would we compare us to Sweden?
Well, if you look at their statistics, they're actually a lot better than what the U.S. was. But regardless, we have to put everything back into what we know. So we can always just be safe when it comes to flu season, if it's COVID-19 or whatnot, hand washing, staying away when we're sick, isolating ourselves during those times, and then boosting our immune system to get through it. If you're saying that, we just need to stay in lockdown forever, that's not the answer either. So at one point, everybody's going to have to be exposed to something that they're not necessarily going to be if they're going to be isolated in their home. That's not.
Well, I understand that, and I agree with that, but I'm not going to grab an AR whatever and go and threaten the governor of Michigan, right? So it's like so there's two sides of a different coin. So I mean, I simply don't understand. It's either we do nothing or we do something, or we do lots of things. So this notion that it's not a big deal, it's a really big deal. If Sweden had good luck, well, hooray for them, but what about us?
Well, we appreciate the call, Dave. We got a couple more minutes with our guests, so you know what, like we said before, Jessica, Sheena, no one's taking this lightly. We don't agree with, everyone going wild and being reckless, but there has to be a middle ground where life has to move on at some point. So no one's saying, like I said, I don't agree with charging the Capitol with AR weaponry, throwing hissy fits, but I also don't feel like wrapping yourself in bubble wrap and hiding under the bed for a year. There's got to be a middle ground where we can.
100%. If people want to do that, they're more than welcome.
And that's the beauty of America.
Yeah.
So Sheena, why don't you kind of give us some final thoughts? Maybe find a website or an email to get a hold of you.
Yeah, sure. Well, if you have any more questions or need some advice, you can find me on sheenapatel.ca. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me there at Sheena Patel Live. I'm usually dropping some kind of knowledge weekly, and happy to answer anybody's questions. And the beauty about my work is that I can do it remotely. I have clients from all over, and we just kind of connect through phone or video chats, much like this pandemic time that we're all dealing with together. So it's great.
Absolutely. And Jessica, how about you? Any final thoughts on your practice? Or?
Yeah, like I said, everybody just stay true to who they are, and just maintain your confidence. And I think in the end, everybody's just going to come out with a stronger immune system. I think people are going to take care of themselves more than what they have in the past, and just making sure that they're, optimal at all times. But in terms of contact or whatnot, I mean, we have a Facebook page, Well Rooted Pediatrics. We do share a lot of videos, a lot of articles, and really just try to educate as much as possible. But in terms of like contact and stuff, obviously just legality wise and not being a part of the practice, can't do a whole lot of, personal detailed information, but you can definitely follow just for education and tips.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you both, Sheena Patel and Jessica Pawlicki. I appreciate you guys coming on and kind of sharing your insight. Raza, I don't know if you're still there.
I absolutely am. I'm just blown away by the knowledge. I think this was a great show. And I look forward to having many more like this, Sean. I think this is absolutely the service we provide, getting the opinions out there and letting people know how to stay true to themselves and come out of this the better version of themselves.
Absolutely.
It's not easy.
And we want everyone to stay safe. We appreciate and give respect and love to all of our essential workers. And we want to make sure everyone comes out stronger. And you know what? We all will be okay. Humans adapt, we survive. And we're all going to get through this and come out better. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and go enjoy this gorgeous day.